I love From Software games. All of you know that. And right now, it feels like a hostage situation where they've been kidnapped, and right now, they have a bazooka placed against their temple with big threats. The villains behind this diabolical plot are Sony. They're looking to try and purchase Kadokawa, which is the majority shareholder of FromSoft. Right now, Sony also has a percentage of From Software, but if they acquire Kadokawa, the parent company, they will have like 80+% of From Software. It'll be under Sony's thumb, and that thumb is stinky. That thumb will go right up your ass and will never come out. Sony, it's not just From Software, by the way. Kadokawa owns a ton of things. A lot of big anime projects, visual novels, really a whole host of things. From Software is just a component, and I do believe a big component of it. And I truly feel if this deal goes through, the From Software that we've all come to know and love with hearts in our eyes will be crumbled to dust under the tyrannical rule of Sony. I have not been the biggest fan of Sony in recent years. I think for a while they were doing some pretty good shit and pushing the industry in a decent direction, but over the last, I'd say like 8 years, it's been really bad, where you can point to tons of unethical business practices and a lot of like greedy shit they've done. There's no point in regurgitating a lot of things I've already talked about there. But you can also just point to the handling of properties that people really like, such as Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 was an absolute breakout superstar. That shit was prom queen and everyone was giving it its flowers, and then Sony comes in there and they want to shitify it. You can hear the classic 90s record scratch sound as Sony storms the stage, grabs the mic, and makes a fucking fool of themselves, where they talk about how you need to link your PSN account in order to play on the PC, which wasn't made clear to the people who purchased it on PC, where there was like a fucking grace period or something where you had Sony's blessing to play with just Steam without linking your PSN. Then they said that you're going to need to link that PSN, which would have locked out tons and tons of players, which obviously got a lot of pushback because they bought this game and they were about to lose access to it because of this new decision here that was made entirely from Sony's own fucking corporate greed. Then there was a lot of refunds with people refunding Helldivers 2 en masse. Eventually Sony panics. They say, hey, wait a minute. Just kidding. Just kidding. Not going to do that. Imagine if we did though, right? Nope, not doing that. We're not going through with that anymore. Just a huge, easily avoidable disaster. But Sony couldn't help themselves. They couldn't help but put their little grubby paws in the cookie jar. I just think there's plenty of evidence to suggest that Sony is not great for consumers. And certainly not great for fans of From Software product if they get their mitts on it. I think if From Software does end up under the Sony umbrella fully, exclusivity is on the table. Exclusivity is on the menu. Not thrilled about that. I also think they're going to be forcing From Software to work on projects they don't really want to. From Software is in a really good flow state. They have only released bangers since Demon's Souls. Like, they have actually a spotless record because they make the games that they want to make. They have the luxury of not being beholden to someone like Sony. Yes, they have a parent company, but it's not breathing down their neck, and it's not forcing things into those products that they don't want there. At least nothing that's been publicly shared that I've seen. Except for Bloodborne. And do you know why Bloodborne is out of From Software's hands? Why we haven't seen a Bloodborne remaster, remake, or even a PC port? Why it's still 30 FPS locked and just caught out cold in the rain? Just made a whole video about this. Well, the reason is because of Sony. Sony owns it. Sony owns the Bloodborne IP. And they have chosen to sit on their hands with it and just lock it away in the fucking basement, feeding it scraps. They're granny shifting, not double clutching like they should with the property, so it just sits there festering. And it's a shame, because From Software has said they would do something with it. They'd be open to doing something with Bloodborne. They can't. It's not theirs. So Sony has showcased that they already don't do anything with a From Software IP that they have, one that is always coveted, and they just refuse to use it. So what kind of picture does that paint for the future of From Software being fully under Sony? I wouldn't be surprised if Sony just actually hates From Software and they're doing this deal just to shut them down. I don't know what vendetta they have against that company, but they don't use Bloodborne, even though it'd probably be a big slam dunk. I really think so, because most people with fucking eyes and a functioning frontal lobe would tell you that Bloodborne anything would be a pretty smash success at the moment, but they refuse to do it, probably out of spite is what I feel like. And if they get From Software from this acquisition, I just feel like they just put them doing shit like making Jump Force 2, like, hey, From Software, what are you working on? Elden what? An Elden what sequel? That'll never work. That's never gonna fly. No one wants that. So instead of letting you guys do what you want, because you clearly don't know what you guys are doing, which is why we came in to save the day. Instead, we're gonna put you on something we know is going to succeed. You ever heard of Concord? Yeah, we're gonna bring it back for another rodeo here with a campaign only component, because we had a great story to tell, and we think you guys are the ones to deliver this. So we're gonna get you on a Concord spinoff. Like, I just feel like Sony would not be a good partner, a parent company for From Software. It is a fit that already has data to suggest they don't mesh well, because Sony already has one of their most well-known IP, Bloodborne. Most people on the fucking planet that have played a video game have heard of that game, and yet Sony has that. They've got a golden goose, and all they do is fuck it. Not even. They don't even give it that kind of attention. They just keep it in a cage. They don't do anything with it. So I just don't see this being a good fit at all. So if Sony gets Kodakawa, I'm not happy about it. I would love to be proven wrong if it goes through and maybe they're a great partner for FromSoft. That'd be amazing. I just don't see it happening. Instead, I see the most likely thing being telling FromSoft, you guys need to remaster Dark Souls again. You guys need to remake Demon Souls again. Just like stupid, nonsensical decisions. Or like classic Sony maneuvers of turning shit into a live service experience. You guys need to live service Elden Ring. It's nothing that gets me excited. It makes me scared. Because I think FromSoft has been operating optimally. I think what they have been doing for the last decade plus has been perfection. They are the gold standard developer that most people praise and like prop up as, this is how you do it right. And I feel like under Sony that's jeopardized. It just seems like a totally different business philosophy from Sony versus Kodakawa, which From Software is currently under. Kodakawa seems very hands-off. They seem to just let FromSoft do what they do best. Sony, I don't think they've ever really showed that. Like, they seem to micromanage the fuck out of everything. It seems like they are constantly, you know, molding things and getting as involved as they can in there and like trying to force things in there where it shouldn't be. And I just don't think that works with From Software. But I want to go a step further here, where even just setting aside my feelings on FromSoft meshing with Sony, like let's say you totally disagree with me on that, that's totally fine. I think this is just bad for the industry entirely. This consolidation that we're seeing here, with companies just absorbing everything around them into these like giant mega corpo shit, that's bad. You should be wanting more competitors outside of like just the big three that are just like this gluttonous glob that's eating everything around them like it's a fucking game of Snake, and they just keep buying other, you know, other organizations and companies. It's better to have companies in a position like FromSoft that aren't with Sony. That is good, because then they can operate on their own terms as opposed to under the giant company's terms, where so many other games are already in there. Like, it's better to have a lot more in the space as opposed to all of it being consolidated. Like, it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. So it's just, I think, bad for the industry to keep going in this direction where everything and everyone is getting consolidated. It's alarming. But yeah, I'm really hoping this deal doesn't go through. I would hate to see From Software smothered by Sony. And like I mentioned earlier, Kodakawa has a ton under their belt. And Sony having all of that also just doesn't make me happy either. It's a lot that Sony would get, not just From Software, and I just don't have any confidence in Sony doing good things with it. I really don't. So yeah, big old fuck you to Sony. Please don't do it. That's really about it. See ya.